Ba-da-ba-da-bum.
I'm Ricky Jones, and I'll be playing Lyons.
My name is Sean Massey. I will be playing Troy Maxon.
I'm Selmore Haynes, and I am playing Jim Bono.
I am D. Wambui Richardson, director of August Wilson's Fences.
I'm Ruben Beckett. I'll be playing Corey.
I'm Stormy Demerson. I'll be playing Rose.
I'm Jamal Sterling. I'll be playing Gabriel.
August Wilson's Fences. It is an American classic. It is the story of a father who is trying to fence in the world while at the same time protect his own self. Troy Maxon, the pivotal character of this story, he is in the place of wanting to save his children, or his son in this case, from repeating some of the same ills that he too ran through. But in the process of doing so, he pushes those around him further away. Because black stories are American stories. And when you come to see this play, you're not just coming to see a reflection of the African American experience, which this story is without a doubt about, but it's also a reflection of who we are as Americans, who we are and where we have come from, coming from an industrial place and having to work our way up. Those of us that started at the bottom and had to strive our way, pull our way, one tug at a time to get to the top. And I think that's something that we all can identify with, regardless of race, color, class, creed, or whatever other boxes we choose to check nowadays. This is a story about a black family, but more importantly, it is a story about an American family living in a black America. One of the things I would say is that one of the things I always say is that when you come to the theater, the beautiful part about coming to see a live theatrical performance is that we all come to this place as strangers. And that the hope is that after those lights go down and rise up again, that we see each other as a community, that we're able to see a reflection of ourselves in one another after having experienced this theatrical piece. When you go to see the movie, or when you go and sit in a movie theater, you're in a silo. You're in this box and you're watching this large screen of something that's going to be pre-recorded and it's going to be the exact same every single time. When you come and see this show, prayerfully you come see it more than once and bring a friend when you do. But when you do, every night will be different. Every night there will be a line that sounds different. There will be a moment that was a little bit richer. There will be a moment where you'll see a different connection in a way that you perhaps didn't expect to hear it the next time. Because you're watching living, breathing, flesh and blood people in the muck and the mire living this experience. The regional theater is where community begins. It is where all of the intersections come together. And it is an opportunity for those intersections to see one another, to laugh together, to cry together, to engage with one another, and most importantly, at the end of the night, speak with one another. We should never leave the theater the same way. We should leave the theater transfixed, transposed, and looking at one another in a different way. And our hope is that when you come to see this particular production, that is what you will experience. That's the joy of regional theater. And most importantly, you get the opportunity to support the artists that are right here in your own backyard. Every artist that is up on this floor right now is from the DFW area. So we're not looking at actors that are coming from New York or coming from Chicago. You're looking at the artists that are right here, locally homegrown, locally developed, right here in your own backyard. Hallelujah.
I think that black folks show up when they're marketed to. So if you build it, they will come. I've seen gigantic black audiences come out to black shows or any show, and also I've seen very small audiences because people don't know where to reach, right? If you make the right marketing decisions, you'll definitely reach out to people, and black people are a strong, vibrant, dedicated community that will, if they see something they like, they're going to come back time and time again.
But I think it's like you said, it's a marketing thing, one, and two, it's the personification of I'm going to go support who I know versus supporting who I don't know. And so a lot of time it's misintercepted on what we need to do as to get our people to come and see live theater, to come and embrace in joyous occasions, to see sadness, to hear stories told in different ways that we don't live every day. So like seeing this production, this is something we're known to in our homes versus things we aren't known to.
Economically, the African American community contributes more than $1.1 trillion a year. There's power in the black dollar. It is important that we, as we tell these stories and as production companies are creating these stories, that we're doing so in a way that gets the word out and supports. That's part one. The second part of that is why support theater versus go to the movie? I would say, think of it like this. Would you rather go to a locally owned restaurant where all of the food is locally sourced and feeds back into your own community? Or would you rather go to Walmart? That's the difference between watching a theater, coming to support theater in your own backyard, versus going out and supporting otherwise. And yes, the cost of a ticket is cost prohibitive for some of us. A $40 ticket versus a $20 Netflix subscription where I can Netflix and chill all month long. It makes a difference. Howsoever, the best investment we can make in our community is in ourselves. Therefore, we have to find ways, on both sides of the spectrum. As theaters, we have to create a pipeline where opportunities for tickets are available. And most theaters have that, where you have pay what you can, you have student rush night, you have industry night. So there are theaters that are out there that are putting those practices in place so that for those of you who cannot afford a $40 ticket, you can still come and see a high quality performance. But I would also challenge our community. Let's look at a Beyonce ticket.
Yes.
She strategically makes sure that her concerts drop right around the time of taxes. That's not by accident. We will drop $100 or $200, $300 on a Beyonce ticket. Let's look at going to watch a basketball game. We will drop $100, $200, $300 on a basketball ticket. Let's look at our children's feet. We'll drop $100, $200 on a pair of Nikes, Adidas, or anything else for our children to sit at home with their feet crossed because they're not on nobody's court. So, we're not saying that it's not possible. What we are saying is that we have to meet on both sides of the spectrum. The theater has to make sure that we're creating opportunities for those of us who cannot afford to be able to come and see theater. And those of us that do have, we have a responsibility to support. If we don't support each other, how can we ask anybody else to do so for us?
That's true.
I think there's a misnomer that theater and film are alike, and they're not. Theater's communal experiences, Mr. Richardson said before. So when you're in this room, and I can speak for the artists up here, it's a sacred connection. The connection of people being in a room together and interacting. If you've been to a live play, especially a good live play, it is nothing like film. It is a communal, the highest form of communal, private conversation you're having with the audience. And that's something that can't be replaced by a movie or Netflix. My 2 cents.
Absolutely. And I just want to piggyback on these two gentlemen's comments that it's also a spiritual experience. And especially in our community, we are a spiritual people. And it's one way in which we can connect to each other and in breath and in sound and just in speaking and hearing and listening and knowing that where we are in this space is a place that we know, a place that we can relate to, and a place that we can feel that we've gone sometimes through therapy. And sometimes theater can be the only place where we can experience something that's therapeutic and where we can have a release, and then we can take that release back out into the world and be healed in this process. So it's very important that we pour back into our communities through a theatrical space so that we can heal ourselves here and take it back out and heal the world.
Another thing with the theatrical experience is the joy of celebrating our stories, because we don't get to do that a lot. You know, the world is, and rightly so, the world is big on integration, and that's important. But when you are in the minority, there are moments in your life where you just want to be with us and tell about us, and we can enjoy that, telling the story as well as receiving the story, because that's a celebration for us that other people can identify with.
I would like to add that one of the things that when you first talked about the actual price of a ticket, so let's just say we'll use the number, arbitrary number, $40. But that $40 for each one helps to pay for that man's salary, that woman's salary, that man's salary, that man's salary, that man's salary, that man's salary, so that we all can continue to give again. All of us would do it for free if it were available.
All of us have done it for free.
All of us have. But then there is also the cost of putting on a production. It's not cheap. But one of the things that you have to realize is, as he said, when you go, maybe you get a movie ticket that's a little bit cheaper, and for one night you spent $20 less. Who did that go to? You know what I mean? And when you look at this, you see that this man with children is now going to be able to tell everyone in here a story, and then the next time, and then the next time, and then the next time. And so yeah, sometimes there are things that may be, when you look at it, quote unquote expensive, but it's worth it.
I think the value that it holds to the community is not seeing people like yourself. You know, a lot of times when you look at a lot of community theaters, you don't see yourself in who you're going to go see. So sometimes when you get the chance to see somebody who looks like you, who sounds like you, who's dressing like you, it kind of makes you happy for a moment, because you don't get to live in that world that you can't be you. And so a lot of times when, you know, we're doing August Wilson's Fences, there's also Pianolist, there's also King Henry, there's also all of these, you know, normative stories about a black man, but the fact that they're not put on all the time, and we're seeing all these stories about a white man, we're thinking, oh, we can't be us because that's not the story being told. So it's important to communities to see a black man in a different light. It's important to see a black woman in a different light, because kings and queens weren't just white. So seeing yourself in a community versus seeing yourself outside of that community is always going to be told differently. So every story means something when you get to be you in said story.
At age 4 years old, I got to see Stephanie Mills in The Wiz. And that experience changed my perception of, and opened up doors and possibilities that I didn't even know existed. And since then, I've seen it happen over and over again with students and young people, where they are exposed to this brand new world, this magical world, and it is like put them on a different trajectory. Whether it's becoming a performer, or whether it's doing marketing, or whether it's doing various things backstage, it definitely takes you outside of the box of just doing that corporate job, which I'm not knocking, but doing something that gives back to the world. And I think that's important, especially nowadays.
Another great joy, and it does come with age, but to have the experience, like for me, doing this show, the stage manager I directed when she was 14 or 15. So you have, and then we have these two little girls that I already see, they are mimicking us. The other night, they were on the stage playing and just saying the lines. And so it's feeding the next generation and seeing that, okay, this type of art is going to continue because we're investing in the future. So that's one of the greatest joys of it.
The oldest tradition of us as a people is that of the griot. He who would come into the village and all of the community, the children, the elders, and everyone would come around and listen to the stories that the griot would tell. Because, these things weren't being written down. You couldn't, Google something real quick back then. It was a shared experience of hearing your stories verbally told from one generation to the next generation to the next. When we are upon this stage, we take upon the role of the griot. We are telling our stories, not just for this moment, for future moments, so that the next generation will pick up the mantle after we sit down and continue that narrative. If we don't tell our stories, we leave it to someone else to tell our stories for us. And then you have to worry about what is the agenda that is being put when someone else tells your story for you.
One of the things that I personally have experienced through my journey as an actor, I'm 49 now, so I've been doing it for a while, is that when I started in the 80s, there were a lot of times when you would see a production that, whether it was on TV or printed out, and you automatically assume that was a Caucasian role. The lead person was white, and you never thought, okay, I can audition for that role. You're thinking, oh, well, it's Gone with the Wind, I have to be Hattie McDaniel. And yet, to me, being able to see the growth of theater, and I think I have to believe everyone up here has done a role where it was traditionally thought of as a white person's role, and people haven't seen it any other way. Doesn't mean that's how it was written, it's just that's what was presented to them. So for me, black and making it is being able to put yourself on stage and be the person. Doesn't matter if was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and you're thinking Jack Nicholson, Jamal could be McMurphy. That's black and making it.
I think as someone who's just getting started in my, professional theatrical career, being black and making it means being recognized as somebody who is still a valuable artistic entity in a world where that sometimes is difficult. And I think being in these black spaces, it gives me a level of validity that I haven't up until this point received. I feel like I'm learning from every single person in this cast what their own definition of being black and making it is by having our little conversations backstage. And I think at the end of the day, it really is up to you whether or not you consider yourself as somebody who makes it, regardless of if you're getting paid or not. And it helps a lot to be in a place where you're supported from the get-go without having to, qualify your statements by saying, as a black person, I think this, or as a black person, I think that. Just being a person doing theater, it makes a big difference, I think, to be in a space like this.
It's such a layered answer and a layered question, but I think being black and making it for me means being able to unapologetically live and walk and breathe in your blackness, and in every space, whether it's in theater or not. But since we're talking about theater, just standing and not compromising your views, not compromising your voice, and sometimes that means literally your voice, because I have seen, even in my own life, like, okay, wait a minute, do I have to sound like this to make someone else feel comfortable? And not diluting my blackness to make anyone else feel comfortable, because everything that I come with, everything that every one of us comes with, adds to this beautiful gumbo that makes the thing work. Just making it means just live and don't be unapologetic. And everything that you do in the process of doing that, whether it's a mistake or not, is correct. It's correct. There are no mistakes. It's a learning process. And we are all just trying to get it. But especially in the artistic space and the theater space, where most of us have had to bulldoze our way in our own paths, every step you make is making it. And just own that and be okay with it.
To be black and making it is to be black and not be uninspired. A lot of times there is a consequence for being inspired in our group of people. You know, we have people who lost their inspiration and they say, well, you can't go do that because it didn't work for me, Troy Maxson. We have the story that because I couldn't get somewhere, you can't get somewhere too. But a lot of times when you have an inspiration to say, I want to be a singer, I want to be an actor, I want to be an artist, I want to be president. When you have the choice to go and be something, to be black and to make it, is to not be uninspired. And so anytime there's a consequential reason to go and be something, that reason should be freedom of being yourself. So to be black and to making it is to not being uninspired.
Yes.
For me, black and making it, and I think for me it's making it is not just a racial thing, but that was the question asked, is to set a standard in your life for excellence and to not settle for mediocrity. We oftentimes find ourselves, due to just complacency and repetition, we can get caught up in giving just what it takes to get by. But making it is about constantly striving for that level of excellence and then maintaining it. And the wonderful thing about live theater is that we get the opportunity to strive for that excellence every performance. And it's not always that you get there, but because you have levels of that and you know when you've gone better than the night before, you have those experiences. But to know that your goal, your perception is that I don't want to be middle of the road in what I'm doing, and to work in an experience for like this show. You know, the first day of our read through, our director comes in and establishes with us, I want excellence, and it's not going to be compromised. And that's what making it is to me. It isn't about a salary, it isn't about a position of status, but it is knowing that I spent my life using what God gave me to be the best that I could be.
I was 10 when my mother died. I was raised by a phenomenal yet slightly crazy grandmother who would fight tooth and nail for me. I never really knew who my father was. I know his name, he knows mine, but that's a whole nother thing. And I'm a product of the St. Thomas Project of New Orleans, Louisiana. I grew up the first 18 years of my life on public assistance. And I was 21 years old by the time somebody figured out I was dyslexic. I still went to college, graduated at the top of my class, still went to graduate school, still became the artist that I am today. For me, excellence is, or making it, is not allowing myself to be defined by my zip code or by the status that the world has already given me, but creating something new for myself and ensuring that my next generation can pick up the mantle ahead of where I started.
When I think of the term making it, a lot of times we always define it as some goal that has to be reached. We look at other people and say, oh, I'm not making it because they're doing better than me and they're doing better than me. And I want to be black and making it, especially the making it part. I hope people have the freedom to be happy and satisfied and making it on their own terms, and realizing that your journey is not going to be your journey is not going to be the same as somebody else's journey. And if your journey is different, it doesn't mean you didn't make it. You know, so making sure that making it doesn't mean it's an Academy Award, doesn't mean it's a Tony, doesn't mean it's $1 million. Making it means that you're doing what you love and you're striving at doing it. You know, whatever that means for you.
So please, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking forward to seeing you for August Wilson's Fences right here at Circle Theater. For more information, please join us at circletheater.com. Tickets are on sale now.
Ba-da-ba-da-bum.